How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is a classic Christmas/Halloween stop-motion movie. To those of you who are new around here, I've been covering Christmas movies all December long now. I'm primarily a channel that covers horror movies, so a lot of them are scary, but if that sounds like something you're interested in, at the end of the video there will be a playlist to all my Christmas stuff, and we've gotten it pretty full now. There will be two more after Christmas and between New Year's, the weird little period between Christmas and New Year's that no one really knows what to do with, but there are two more movies I want to cover during that time period. And also, before we get into it, this is Nightmare Before Christmas. I find that my tongue quite often messes up, and I tend to say Nightmare on Elm Street by mistake. So if I accidentally say that, I'm going to say sorry in advance. But anyway, let's just jump right in. Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas from 1993, directed by Henry Selick, and stars Chris Sarandon as Jack Skellington and Catherine O'Hara as Sally. Now, when Jack's singing, it actually turns into Danny Elfman doing the singing, who also did the composing. And you may notice I said someone else's name for director and not Tim Burton. I mean, it's, I guess, a common piece of trivia by now, but a lot of people think Tim Burton directed this movie. He didn't direct it. He was actually busy on other projects at the time, and he had to pass off directing duties to someone he trusted enough to handle his film there. This is still Tim Burton's story. If you look at his credits, he gets credits for producing, but he also gets credits for coming up with the story and characters of this movie. I think he originally wrote a little poem, and he did a whole bunch of illustrations. These are definitely Tim Burton's character designs, so even though he didn't direct this, this is still a Tim Burton movie, but instead of the directing role, he has producer, story, and character creation credits. But anyway, let's just jump right into the plot, and yes, if you're watching this review the day it went up, I am covering Nightmare Before Christmas on December 24th, the night before Christmas, so I thought that was pretty fun. But anyway, you get Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King, the ruler of Halloween Town, and he's just finished celebrating a successful Halloween, and everyone in the town is happy and celebrating and getting ready for next year even, because all the little citizens of Halloween Town, that's their sole purpose. They all love Halloween, but Jack, their leader, is actually getting tired. He's doing the same old thing day in and day out, and he begins to question his purpose. He doesn't feel fulfillment in what he's supposed to do, which is actually a really mature theme for a kid's cartoon, and it is something that's worth talking about that isn't talked about in this great of detail all the time. But anyway, depressed, Jack wanders through the woods with his ghost dog Zero, and gotta give major credit for putting a dog in this movie. I love dogs, and Zero's funny. Floats around, and he's always happy. But after wandering through the woods enough, Jack comes to a place he's never come to before, and that is a ring of trees, and each tree has a different symbol as a door, an Easter egg or a giant turkey, and he goes to one whose symbol is a Christmas tree, and he gets pulled into a mysterious portal that leads him to Christmas Land. So he's immediately enamored by this new culture and way of doing things. Instead of scaring people, they give people joy. Everything's decorated happily instead of spookily. And he is immediately fascinated and pulled in by a new culture and a new way of doing things completely different to his own. Now, he grabs a bunch of stuff and heads back to Halloween Town and shows his new friends that there is another holiday and that there's a different way of doing things. And I really do love the town's reaction. You know, they still like Halloween, they still want to scare people. They really love Jack, though, and they'll follow what he's doing even if they don't necessarily get it, you know? So they're like, okay, we're celebrating Halloween. I don't get this, but, you know, if you want to do it, Jack. And they'll try their best, but they don't really get it. And neither does, Jack gets it more than other people, but he'll study and try to figure things out, but even then, he still doesn't get it a lot. I know that's pretty obvious, the way he's trying to celebrate things. It doesn't always turn out. I mean, he studies books, but still thinks Santa Claus's name is Sandy Claus, and, you know, he really wants to understand, and he understands much more than his colleagues, but he doesn't quite grasp it, and there's this really fun scene where he goes to the Dr. Frankenstein character called Finkelstein in this movie, but I think in the credits it just says Mad Scientist. But he goes to that character and is like, give me science equipment, and he starts analyzing everything, looking at stuff under a microscope, and you know, he does he opens up a teddy bear with a surgical knife and pulls out, instead of any gore or anything, he pulls out a bunch of fluffing, and he's like, what's this fluffing? But he doesn't quite understand it, but he eventually gets the idea that, you know, he wants to embrace us more, and why should Santa Claus get all the fun? He decides that he, for just this 1 year, should take over Christmas from Santa Claus. He arranges to have Santa Claus kidnapped, and while that's going on, at Halloween Town, they're building fun toys and building a sleigh. He has Finkelstein make some skeleton reindeer come to life, and he's getting ready to do the holiday itself, which leads to one of this movie's major pros, is the brilliant juxtaposition of these two holidays. Everything in here, you know, it feels both Christmas and Halloween at the same time, and at first that might seem really weird, but they do get them to play, you know, Christmas in a fun Halloween-y way where it really does feel like Christmas, but with a new take on it. And hey, you ever go to the stores in October? This year I saw Halloween wasn't even around yet. They were putting up the Christmas stuff, and it did really feel like a Nightmare Before Christmas scenario, having the seasonal section have both of these two holidays going at once. It was crazy. But yeah, a really great atmosphere, and that really is one of the big pros. They can pull in this weird atmosphere with both holidays, and also Tim Burton's great art style really does help, where everything's looping and crazy and German expressionist, and you get like Jack, who's a skeleton, so he's big and lanky and his arms move, and that helps it give it more a fairy tale quality. And I think that's the thing, is Halloween and Christmas both have, you know, fairy tale elements in them, and they found the common area where these two can both exist. And I really love the atmosphere and the style. They find a way to bring colors into Halloween Town when Halloween Town's mainly gray, and have them still work, and that's really good. Another big pro is the characters. There's a ton of amazing characters in this. I look at Jack Skellington. Before I saw the movie, I thought Jack Skellington would be a more maniacal character. I thought he'd be more like, say, the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt. And he does get a good cackle every now and then. But when I saw the movie for the first time way back when, that was one of my biggest surprises, is Jack Skellington is not at all like I thought he would be. He's a really nice, enthusiastic character, and it's kind of weird to see that from a skeleton character, but he's really enthusiastic. You know, he's depressed at the beginning, but then to see this joy and enthusiasm in this character as he finds a new holiday and this, glee in discovering new stuff, he's a really different character than I thought he'd be, and it's a really positive one, and it's cool to see a character like this, that's coming in and finding a new holiday and just getting so excited. It's really fun. The next biggest character is Sally, and she seems to be the only one that knows there's something wrong with this and that it might turn out terribly. She's the creation of Dr. Finkelstein, so she's the Frankenstein-esque character, and she's all stitched together, and she can, take, like, say, her hand off or something and then stitch it back on. So she's a fun character, bluer skin with that patchwork dress and the long red hair. Another really great design. All the characters are great design, Tim Burton and stuff. But to see her try to, she really likes Jack, even though Jack is completely oblivious, but try to avoid this disaster, the only one, working to try to keep the wheels on. And, she's a great character there, the one that's trying to hold everything together. But then there's also the villain, Oogie Boogie, who is this big sack type material guy, and he's the villain, and it's kind of funny because you don't really get to see too much of him, but the first time Jack ever says his name is he's talking to three people that are kind of his minions, and he's like, "Don't bring Oogie Boogie into this," and you can tell, without really ever saying what happened between the two characters, that Jack just hates this guy, and that's really fun, But yeah, he's not in there that long, and that's okay because this film doesn't really need too big a villain character. You need him for a little bit at the end, raise the stakes and make things fun, but for the most part, it's about the concept, and it's not about fighting off a villain, so having him in there not that long is probably the best call, but he is a really cool and entertaining character. And at the very end of the movie, where they reveal what he actually is, what type of organism he is, that is a very interesting reveal, and I really do like that. But also, all the other characters, you get the mayor who has, the face he puts on for the public, and then his head spins around, he's got his real self, and he's all worried about everything. You get a ton of the classic monsters re-envisioned in different ways, a group of vampires, or the mummy, but the mummy's just a little boy and he's got like one eye for some reason. There's a ton of characters that you don't see that often or don't play a big role, like a clown riding a unicycle, that are still really, really memorable despite the fact that they're not a big part of the story. They take all the little citizens of Halloween Town and they give them cool designs, thank you Tim Burton, and they give them personalities. I feel like I know the background characters in Halloween Town better than I know some of the main characters in worse movies, and they really all have this sense of life about them, and again, Tim Burton's great character design, but also great writing and direction and acting. I love that the town has so much life, and that really fits into the great, overly designed but somehow not complicated version of this town where everything is crazy and wacky and thought out, but it all feels naturalistic and like you can just jump into this big complex world without knowing much and go, oh yeah, Halloween Town, and it's all thought out. It's great. And one more thing I should mention while we're on the pros is the songs. I mentioned I covered the Star Wars Halloween special earlier on this channel. I'm not naturally a big fan of songs, and I said good music is good music, but quite often they tend to shove songs in kids' movies regardless of if they fit or not, and they often slow the plot down. Now here, with Nightmare Before Christmas, it is a Christmas movie, so songs lend itself more naturally, but the movie has an over-the-top fun atmosphere, and the songs really push for that. They're very enthusiastic songs, full of energy, and they want to get going and move the plot along, and I love that. They're all these high-energy, let's go on an adventure type songs, and they fit within the plot of the movie and advance the plot of the movie, which not all songs do. They don't waste time, For example, when Jack first finds Christmas Town, he sings the song "What's This?" where he's running around town going, "What's this? What's this?" looking at different objects. And, whenever he picks something up, what's this? It's something, the audience wants to see Christmas Town. Jack wants to see Christmas Town. We want to know what's going on. The song is catchy, upbeat, but fulfills the plot of the movie that we need right now, and essentially tells the scene in a more interesting way through the song, which is what a lot more songs need to do. And they're also, a lot of the songs are really quick, so you don't have to go through a whole big long song if you don't need to. If the song just needs to be a little song, this movie's okay with the song being a short song. You don't have to drag everything out into the full song. And I really do like the music in this. It just leads to the energy and makes the movie feel more fast-paced than slow-paced, which is, a lot of bad songs make the movie feel slow-paced, but here it just leads to the energy and keeps it moving. And I like the songs in this particular movie. I like the songs in this movie. They did it well. I'm not really a big, Disney fanboy, so I'm not really just drooling over songs naturally, but here they work good. Now, as far as flaws, I really don't have too many with this movie. It's very good, and there's lots of fun stuff. The only one thing that I will say about it is the Christmas Town and Halloween Town, there's such a fun and wacky, creative atmosphere that when they go to the regular world, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, I forgot the regular world was part of this movie. And you're like, oh, yeah, and there's a few moments where it feels like, okay, in the regular world that's not as wacky or fantastical as, what we're used to seeing in this movie. But there's not that much of the regular world in this movie, so that's not a big complaint. It's just every now and then the regular world feels just so much more normal than the rest of this movie and not as fantastical, and turns a few times it doesn't really feel like it belongs. Now, quite often, Jack is bringing wacky stuff to them, so it does pull it into his world, but there's a few things where like, oh, okay, I forgot there is a real world in this movie. But anyway, very good, highly recommended, a good Christmas family film that horror fans can enjoy, and, so can the whole family. Now, I will say, the big question with this movie is, do you watch it at Halloween or Christmas? And I obviously say you can watch it at both, or in fact, any time of the year. But if you have to pin me down, if you have to nail me to one holiday, I would say that personally, I feel like this is more of a Christmas movie. I mean, it has Christmas in the title. The plot is about discovering what Christmas is. The climax is on Christmas night. It has fun songs, and you get to see them decorating the whole town. It's Halloween Town, but they're decorating it for Christmas. And also, it's stop motion, which, thanks to Rockin' Boss, I always associate stop motion naturally more with Christmas, for things like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and all the other little Santa Claus movies they made. So I personally feel it's more of a Christmas movie, but it's also a Halloween movie. I'll put it in both of my playlists. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. Thank you, because you're really helping this channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist down at the bottom. Should be my Christmas playlist. And you can see all the other Christmas movies I've reviewed this December, and I think one from earlier. Anyway, have a good day, and I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Merry Christmas!